Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for having me, and thanks for the other panel discussions here. It's very interesting, and I'm sorry I missed the panel before this. That sounded fascinating, and I'd love to follow up on some of the international inspirations that we have going for us in the co-op movement. And more to that point, I want to build on some of that and talk a little bit more generally today about cooperative investment as a practical but also a political solution to the crises of the 21st century that we are seeing unfold all around us. Before I get into that, just on terms of what we're doing, I am a co-founder along with Bill Wemikin of Community and Cooperative Council. We are two lawyers with a wealth of cooperative experience, and we are working with the BC Co-op Association as well as the Alberta Community and Cooperative Association and other associations across the country to build, consolidate, and affect best practices in the cooperative sector that really meet the challenges of the 21st century. So a couple examples of what we're doing is first of all, assisting ACCA and BCCA in setting up a co-op of shared services for co-op members to avail themselves of legal services, accounting, communications, IT, marketing, and to make those more focused on serving cooperative principles and needs, as well as nonprofit sector. And lowering some of the barriers to entry in availing those services. The other one is a cooperative investment federation that is in the process of being established that will include a software platform that will assist investment co-ops in forming and administering securities offering, assisting in member communication, and probably most importantly in regulatory compliance, to just make it a lot easier to administer and manage in investment cooperatives and in solidarity with other co-ops across Western Canada. What I want to move on from, and one of the topics that came up is challenges to the co-op sector here in the 21st century and challenging other cooperators. And I would like to do that as well. We live in unprecedented and unusual times. We're dealing with global powers directly embroiled in a European conflict, the biggest one since World War II. And this is a huge human toll, but it's also incredibly disruptive to the global economy. Especially in agriculture, we're seeing, potentially 30% of international wheat exports from Russia and Ukraine threatened, as well as Ukraine being a major leading exporter in vegetable oils and sunflower oils. We're seeing, historical inflation, 5% in Canada as of January, 8% in the US as February. This was before this war really became bogged down. Rising gas prices obviously threaten global trade. Supply chain issues, strained government budgets, climate change, a global pandemic, and the continued decline of rural and local economies. So in this rapidly changing world, I'd suggest, and in fact advocate, that business as usual is no longer effective. In such times, we realize that economic decisions are community decisions. They are political decisions. Business structures are built on the assumptions and principles behind them. Cooperative structures place service to members, to community, democratic decision-making, solidarity, and independence at the center of what they are, legally and practically. Other structures prioritize speculative plays, short-term best interests, and exit strategies. In professional communities in particular, lawyers and accountants have tended over the last 30 years to present cooperatives in Canada as an uncertain unknown or as unnecessarily restrictive. However, I disagree. Cooperatives are a conscious decision by community leaders to do business differently for and by regular people, for their communities. And we are working to raise the profile of cooperatives within professional communities across Canada through university education involvement. The latest, I've been involved with law students at the University of Calgary and developing advocacy programs for co-ops. as well as professional education courses that we're going to be working on and launching here in the next year. I want to reinforce this by saying cooperatives are not just a means to make more democratically accountable business decisions. Specifically in the topic of today, we're talking about a deeper form of co-op membership than perhaps your membership at the grocery co-op, with proportionally greater and diverse benefits to members, including capital returns, but also social environmental returns. Cooperatives are vehicles to raise capital for and by community and form real engines for economic development and community well-being. I personally have seen a resurgence of interest in the co-op model for raising capital for members and for community across Western Canada. In the last 2 years, we have assisted several leadership groups realize their vision for economic development in their communities by forming investment co-ops or by expanding their securities offerings to members. These projects have been tailored to local needs and reflect a diversity of priorities, depending on unique needs of every community. From the Bow Valley to the Peace Country, the Kootenays, Vancouver Island, we've seen solar energy installation be cooperatively organized and capitalized from members and from community. In Bragg Creek, Southern Alberta, and the BC interior, we are seeing the same for fiber optic cooperatives. In Eastern Alberta, we see shortline railway and grain distribution cooperatives being cooperatively organized and restructured to succession plan for the next generation of farmers and community members with great success. In Vermilion, the Crow's Nest Pass, and other communities, we see community members cooperatively purchasing and renovating commercial property to support local entrepreneurs. So this is happening, and we're part of a movement to make sure that these leadership groups aren't constantly reinventing the wheel. We need leadership groups to understand that this is an option, and to have the tools at hand to make this happen without suffering exhaustion or needing heroic means to create these democratic enterprise for the communities. To speak at some of the successes we've had tacit recognition by securities regulators in Alberta and BC that cooperative investment is responsible investment at the local level in particular. And we continue to work with regulators and governments to facilitate community investment for and by regular working Canadians. Regulators, government, and the public alike have to understand that investment is not the exclusive domain of bankers, accountants, lawyers, and the wealthy. The real investment that matters has historically come from regular working people, and that investment is the resilient foundation of our nation's economy and often has a cooperative origin. We are working to streamline precedents and legal processes to make investing through cooperatives easier and more cost-effective. As an example of this, we're working to use cooperative tax laws more effectively to maximize the benefit of cooperatives, member ownership, and business with members. All cooperatives, including investment-oriented cooperatives, can take advantage of certain tax exemptions that many cooperatives are unaware of or underutilizing. So Section 135 of the Income Tax Act, for instance, permits cooperatives to pay out patronage to members and customers and deduct such patronage from their taxable revenues in a way that is unavailable to corporations. For agricultural co-ops, this benefit is increased by the ability of ag co-ops to issue tax-deferred cooperative shares to members and deduct as much as 85% from their taxable revenue while retaining that capital for ongoing business purposes. So there are advantages. They are somewhat unwieldy. They probably need to be advocated for to be streamlined, as many of our other exemptions need to, but they do exist, and we're working to make them more cost-effective, accessible, and understood by professional service providers and cooperators. So this exemption in particular may not last forever. It's set to expire in 2026. So cooperatives and associations representing them should take a close look at whether such instruments are a benefit to them and whether we can advocate to expand them or streamline them. Cooperatives are a practical tool for raising capital for members in a responsible way that tend to present more responsible local investment opportunities in the face of a securities market that every day seems more disconnected from the reality of real economics, i.e. how we get food on our table. They become more speculative and esoteric seemingly by the month, with developments such as crypto and some bordering on the bizarre, with such devices as bits of digital pictures of monkeys being traded as if they were stock in companies and fetching large sums of money on quasi security markets. And I would point out that co-op investment is distinct from that. It is a tool to keep our feet on the ground, making sure our families and children have functional communities to live in and prosper well into the future. In finishing, I will return to what I believe really matters in all of this. We must realize that the solutions to the crises of the 21st century will come from regular people working together in solidarity for themselves and for their communities. We cannot rely on experts, politicians, tech plutocrats, faraway corporate offices, or any other self-ordained saviors. We must invest ourselves and our capital and ventures in our community if we want them to survive and thrive for the next generation. Business as usual will not work in unusual times. When I look at what is happening in the Ukraine, when we see regular Ukrainians doing incredible things, making unimaginable sacrifices to defend their communities and country, this is inspiring, but we don't need to wait to save our communities and our local economies. We need to start now. I do believe democratic accountability can and does start with our investment in it, and this investment is best done cooperatively. Yeah, so the professional services, and I know there are people in the conference right now that can speak to that. Corinne Rempel is taking the lead on access. Paul Sabai can, of course, speak with that, or anybody else involved in BCCA or ACCA. And I'm not exactly sure as to what the most preferred way of availing those services are right now, but perhaps we can share that right away. We're kind of in the building as we're driving mode of this right now, but we are launching services. I mean, obviously they include our services, CCC right now. I know that there's IT services that have been launched and communications services that we're building too. So I would encourage a conversation with Corinne or Paul to move that forward. Or of course you can contact me directly and I can provide my contact information.